Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Welcome back to WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. You're going to hear some statistics in just a couple of minutes. You want to maybe grab a pen and a paper because these are riveting statistics that tell us almost everything about where we're at right now in our economy and, of course, in our business planning and our execution. I'm going to go on ahead right with that. By the way, this show is brought to you by Jan Pro of Omaha. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the cutting edge in commercial cleaning crews around the metro area. So look them up. Jan Pro of Omaha. We'll talk more about them again in the middle of our program right here. And then we're going to focus on the back end of the show about some of the strategic priorities that have been articulated and circulated by the State Chamber of Commerce. Brian Sloan and his wonderful team there in Lincoln. They've kind of identified the things that are important in the business sector as well as in the civic sector. And of course, those are areas where Nebraska is very active as well. So we've got a full show, and we're going to begin with this statistic right here. One or two statistics that may kind of shock you perhaps, but it will take us towards a solution. I'm going to give you a broad solution to these somewhat negative statistics. But at any rate, number one, 21% of all of us have the expertise, resources, and commitment to pursue new growth successfully. Only 21% of us feel like we can go out and get a new customer. It's an amazing number and kind of scary, and it opens up a really wide arena, shall we say, if we're talking about marketing tactics, but we won't do that exactly right now. But here's another statistic, maybe even more profound. 2/3 of us believe that this will be the most challenging moment in their entire executive career. 2/3. Think about the fear and trepidation and anxiety, uncertainty, and all these things that are going on inside of people when these two statistics alone, by the way, tell us kind of where we're at. Now, if you say, yeah, that's probably true, I can live with that. I kind of understand what you're saying, and I agree. Those are formidable statistics. So what I've got for you right now is I've got 8 or 9 questions. Well, wait a minute. Before I go into those questions, let me give you what I would say if somebody said, you've got just a couple seconds, right? Give me the answer to these incredible stats that I just mentioned to you right here. And I'm going to hold up a graphic here. You'll be able to see it on your screen at home. It's here it is right here, very colorful. 3 words, all of them ending, by the way, in ION. That's a very interesting story about energy and finding something that complements what you're currently doing. But vision, fusion, and passion would be the 3 things. If somebody said, just give me 3 ideas, 3 things that I can focus on to somehow bolster confidence and focus with our organization, get going, get us a little traction. Now I'm going to talk about these 3 words, vision, fusion, and passion, real quickly, and then we'll come back to them a little bit later on. So vision, all right? Most people would say, oh, I know what vision is. But the fact of the matter is most businesses don't have a viable vision. It's not taken seriously. It may be on a plaque on the wall, maybe. And it's not in touch with the cultural trends of today, which could be, diversity, it could be social responsibility, it could be achieving meaning, higher purpose, all kinds of interesting things associated with vision. But the vision also should be a little bit more specific and kind of give you a feel of, okay, what would, is it a market share thing? Are they going to be opening up brand new vistas, new market segment? What is the real vision from not just an aspirational point of view, but also kind of a concrete business point of view? You got to be able to articulate it. It's a very exciting exercise, by the way, really getting serious about what is our vision. And do we want to share it with people just on the street, so they get inspired by our company? All right, so the second one, this is a very interesting thing. I began studying fusion in 2002, so that's 20 years plus, because I found it so interesting to see how well organizations come together, people talk at a coffee shop, and pretty soon their ideas are melding and overlapping with each other. That's fusion, of course. And in many cases, 2 plus 2 equals 5. So a really good fusion initiative, media fusion, right? There's a wonderful example. Social media kind of kicks off, then you have paid ads and the aggregation of them all, and then here comes an email newsletter, and they all are saying roughly the same thing, and they're fusing in my cerebral cortex, and all of a sudden I'm saying, wow, something's coming together in my head. I see it, I feel it, right? Fusion, wonderful thing. And then, of course, passion. Now, people are sitting right there and they're going, well, he didn't have to talk to me about passion. I know what passion is. Well, I got to tell you, man, there are very few companies out there today that I can identify. Now, I read about them, of course, and they do exist. But if I asked a business owner, I said, who are the passionate people in your organization, and what's the source of your passion, I think I'd be waiting there a few seconds, maybe a little bit longer. Most business people, and men in particular, I must say, are reluctant to be emotional about their companies, It's not that they aren't, by the way, but they have hard time expressing that. But you do see it come out, when they get there early and they show up and they're setting up the trade show booth or whatever, and they're getting excited and people are coming in. You can kind of see some passion there as well. But it's really the sales prospect who says, this guy is, he's for real. He's really serious about this or that, The things he's saying are kind of interesting, So I get it. I think there's a sense of conviction there, right? A sense of commitment, a sense of this is what the future is going to be. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a salesperson or a sales manager and you're focused every day on features and benefits and find the pain, I've got to find out the pain so I can somehow match that up and convince you that I can solve your problem. That's all okay. It really is. Really, it's okay. It can be effective. But you might want to think about developing a vision of the future. This is where our company is going, and we actually understand the technology. It's right out here. We're pursuing it. We're in research. We know people that are doing this and that. We're staying cutting edge, and we're going to become to do more and more and more of this and that, right? And that is a very effective thing. A lot of customers say, well, they're all the same. Everybody's the same, and the prices are rather similar. But I like going with these guys because you know what? They're going somewhere. They're going somewhere, and I want to be associated with a vendor that is, they're actually thinking about the future, right? And that comes out inside of them as they're telling you the future of the industry and their particular role inside of it. And that's a fascinating thing, and people get passionate about that. All right. Listen, so say, this is good stuff, Lynn, but, I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at, and how can I really, surround this whole situation where only 21 or 22% think they can actually get a new customer? That's pretty rough, man, right? So let me ask you a question here, and I'm going to just roll now. I want you to think about these things. Now, I know you all have heard of this thing called a business model, all right? Some people have studied it for years. Other people can barely, tell you exactly what it is. But the answers to these questions, and I've got 8 or 9 questions, will tell you what your business model is. And really the key question is, how do we create value? How do we create something that people go, hey, these are great. I love these things. How much do they cost? I want one, right? You go, we got a good business model here. So let's ask ourselves some questions that are relative to the business model, and that'll kind of flesh things out and give you a feel about how to get out of this rut of mediocrity and uncertainty and so on. So number one, these all seem obvious, but maybe not so obvious. Number one, how do my customers pay me? How do they pay me? And is that changing? Do we have various forms of technology? Is it check? Is it cash? Is it push a button? Whatever it is, you need to stay on top of that, and that may change over time. Maybe you add a couple ways. I don't know. Number two, who do I sell to? Now, this is something you could talk about and debate with different people for hours and hours, because I'm going to ask you, what are their values? What do they look like? What do they spend money on? Who else in your industry do they care about? What's their response when they hear your product or your brand name? Those are all different ways to segment, slice and dice, this very broad arena of potential prospects that you sell your product to. You got to get this down first. It's probably the number one answer that you've got to be able to have. Now, this may rival that because here we are with our value proposition. What do I really sell? I got to tell you, I have sat in some interesting conversations that lasted a long time because people will debate this. They'll say, well, it's just much more than just their physical logistics and the construction and all of that. That's not exactly what it is that I really sell. What I sell is security. I sell fear, you know. I sell happiness. Maybe that's what I really sell, right? Self-satisfaction. All these kinds of things, really, these intangible, emotional things, very relevant when you're trying to answer this question, what do I really sell? Now, this is interesting. This is all of you accountants and operations people, and some of you product development people. What do you use to make your product? What do you use to make it? Now, you know, it could be metal, but maybe it should be plastic, and maybe it should be hard rubber. I don't know. You see, there's a lot of components that go into a tangible product. But what about if it's an intangible financial service? What do you use to make that product? Well, some kind of a guarantee from a large financial institution. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a planner, something that is part of our product. Very interesting to ask the question and then really try to go a little deeper than the obvious answers. Now, how do I pay for it? How do I pay for it? It's a wonderful question, right? Because maybe we're negotiating with supply side. We got distributors over here, and we're trying to figure out, can I buy a bunch of them and get a huge discount? Is it something I can sell on a long-term basis? Do I need to borrow money so I can pay these guys off and get some? It's a very interesting thing, actually. Much less obvious than you might think. How do I pay for it? How do my customers pay me? Yeah. Now here we have a whole interesting model about subscription. You know, people say, well, credit card, cash, which is increasingly unfamiliar or less popular, and other forms of payment, of course. But I just want to tell you this. I mean, for instance, they might put some money in your behalf into a nonprofit. Say, there, I'm going to pay you that way. I'm going to give you some, what should I say, some prestige or some level of outstanding performance or whatever if I make a donation in your behalf. So there's a lot of ways for the customers to pay you. How do you make it? How do you make it? Do you use molding? Do you use lots of different arcane things or average things? Is there a new way to make it? It's a good question, all right? So there we go with 8 or 9 questions that really, they all seem obvious, I know. None of them are obvious because at this point in our economy, everything is being redone. If you don't believe that, just take a look at ChatGPT-4 or GPT-4, whatever it is. Everything is being rethought, redesigned, reimagined, and you do not, and I mean you do not want to be left behind during this pivotal moment in our history, in our economy, and in your industry, by the way. So it's been a wonderful first half here of our show, WowBiz Nebraska. There are so many. I mean, you are a thought leader if you are watching this show. And believe me, customers and employees want to hang out with people that watch shows like this and think about the questions that I'm asking. All right, right here in WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker, obviously, and we are working with Nebraska Consulting, by the way. They're the people bringing some new ideas to the party all around the state. But the sponsor for our show here tonight is JanPro of Omaha. Now, JanPro is a commercial cleaning operation for commercial buildings. So any big office building that you see, even some of the smaller retail businesses and so on, JanPro of Omaha will be there. Now, there's lots of competition, a lot of people involved at this level or in this industry here in the Omaha area, and that's good. The thing is, though, that JanPro is a national franchise, and so there are a few things that they've been able to weave into their service offering, their value proposition, as we were discussing earlier. First of all, JanPro, we've done some research, by the way, but business owners along these lines say, what do you really value? What do you really care about? And we talk about it back and forth. Some of them say customization. Some of them say, well, I need somebody who I can talk to. Many times they're Mexican, they're Spanish speaking, so I need somebody who's bilingual. You know, these kinds of things, and that's all good. But what they really, really say again and again are 3 words, and they happen to begin with T. And the benefit of having these 3 T words involved in the relationship there's another T word that is connected to it at the back end. So the first T word is tools. I'm sure that's not surprising, whether it's a mop and a bucket or various high-tech wands that shoot some incredible sanitizers and all this kind of thing around a building. It's just amazing, some of the newer tools that are used. But then they also, technology. Now, this is something that not every cleaning crew really does use optimally, but it's woven into the very fabric of operations at JanPro of Omaha Technology. So that's the second two. And the third T is training. Now you might just assume that that's not, of course, everybody does that. Well, they really, really don't. But the trainer for JanPro of Omaha, I personally know this man. I'll tell you, he's been in this industry in Northern California. He supervised cleaning crews. That's what he did. Then he went to California or Texas to see his children and live near his kids. And again, for a different company in the industry, rather large company, he supervised, again, crews of cleaning, commercial cleaning staff, janitors, et cetera, and he was measuring them. And this is the final thing with the M word. I love this because it's measurability. How in the world do you know, every night you're in there cleaning up, how do you measure these kinds of results, right? What are the metrics? And by the way, if there's one word that I choose to describe their work, and I really mean this sincerely, we've said T3, JanPro, all of that, but I love the M word, meticulous. Meticulous, absolutely. When you see these people doing their job, night after night after night, you may not even pay attention to them. They are meticulous. These are the professional standards that make them measurable. So JanPro of Omaha, outstanding operation. Look them up on the web. They're looking to hear from you. They'll be happy to do some kind of an audit or evaluation, obviously give you a bid and so on. JanPro of Omaha is where it's at. If you own a business or a business building, a commercial operation and so on. So check them out, and I'm sure you'll be happy with their work. All right. Well, thank you so much for sticking with us here on WowBiz Nebraska. We've already said a lot. We're trying to convey some educational material. You know, we want to make sure that people are learning something as a result of watching the show, to be sure. Very important. We don't want to be dull or dry. We want to give you important information. But speaking of something that is not dry, all right, let's talk about your business. All right, let's talk about your business and the reason that it should not be dry or dull. And as a matter of fact, I was the guy that interviewed a number of young professionals, and they said, you know, the reason we're leaving Nebraska is we think the state is a little conservative, a very dry. A lot of the business owners are rather dull. They don't think about the business outside the box. They just keep doing the same thing. They seem to be happy with somewhat mediocre, routine procedures and outcomes and so on. We don't want to work for a company that's dull. And the customers, of course, kind of eventually pick up on this, and they feel like the product may be a little bit dull insofar as its overall usability. This is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. So years ago, I used to do a lot of reading with Tom Peters. You might know about Tom Peters. He's still alive to this day, one of the most brilliant men, forward-thinking men in the world of business. You won't believe. But here we have a magazine cover. I'm going to show it to you here. And this inspired me years and years ago, and you'll know why here very shortly. Here we have Fast Company magazine. All right. And as you can see, there's an illustration here on the cover. And there's a reference to Peter Senge, the late Peter Senge, which is all about learning organizations. So important, especially in this era. Are you a learning organization? That'd be a good question you can ask yourself. Most of us have to say, well, not really so much. But here we have in the middle of this cover, if you can see it, the Wow Project. This is a show that's called WowBiz. Where do you think that idea came from? It came from this cover right here. It came from Tom Peters, emphasizing again and again and again that there's an emotional component to making a purchase, a selection, choosing a vendor, working with a company, and so on. And if the experience doesn't strike you as unique, something special, they really understand me, they brought something out that I've never seen before, you can see that they went to a lot of extra effort for me. Wow, 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 right? Now, people say that sometimes. For instance, let's think about products. Nike, A lot of new product development going on with Nike shoes. and have been for a number of years, of course. But there will be a time when you slip your foot into a Nike and you'll go, wow, this is quite different, seems much better than anything else I've ever put on, etc. And there's many, many examples of that emotion. So I just have to tell you this. I'm going to challenge you now. I'm going to challenge you. Do people say wow when you pick up the phone? Do they say wow when you say, here's our product lineup, here's what we'd like to offer you, we'd recommend this? Wow, wow, wow. You know, we're talking about wow and the importance of a positive emotional experience and something that's maybe surprisingly good, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a very important attribute, and a lot of companies just kind of forget about it. You know, they just, we made the deal, we made the money, you know, move on. There's got to be somebody on the team that says, wait a minute. There was no form of delight there. There was no positive surprise. We haven't done anything special for these guys. We're making a mistake. Now, think about the wow factor that we've just been discussing here, and you see behind me on WowBiz Nebraska. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce. They just kind of summarized recently some of the business challenges that they're encountering across the state, as well as some of the civic or community opportunities that they're seeing across the state. These are their priorities. This is what they're saying we're working on. These are the things we need to do, whether it's at the legislature or whatever. And as I whip them off, I'm going to say them very quickly. But I do want to ask you this. How does this wow thing that I've been talking about, how could wow or some kind of an emotional value be hooked into this or that as a solution to these situations? You'll see what I mean right here. So we'll talk about business challenges here in the state of Nebraska according to the Nebraska Chamber, and ask yourself, is there a wow solution related to that? So number one, talent. No surprise. Hiring a skilled workforce. Oh yeah. Upskilling and training employees. That's kind of the next level. Mentorship or networking opportunities resulting from recruiting diverse candidates. So just give yourself 10 seconds. How could this wow philosophy be utilized in hiring a skilled workforce or networking or mentorships or recruiting? I'm guessing there's a few things. Next one, government and tax. Government regulations, tax burdens, local zoning, building codes. Thirdly, supply chain issues, access to transportation and logistics resources. Think about what's the wow solution to that issue, that challenge. Uncertainty. Now, this is a psychological thing, right? All of a sudden, bam, we're in the world of emotion and philosophy. Finding and retaining new customers. we already know that only 21% of us think we can do that. Difficulty replicating success in a new location. You know, you got to expand and be able to do as well on your second location as you have done historically at the first. Burnout or doubt in our ability to grow. I mean, that's what we just heard at the beginning of the show. Burnout and doubt about whether or not we can actually go find a new customer and make some money. It's an amazing thing we're at right now. What's the wow solution to that? Changing business conditions. Oh man, that would be an understatement, right? Marketing, strategic planning, meeting customer demands, succession planning. Succession planning, wow. That really needs a new wow-oriented solution. Really does. It's very awkward, doesn't work out many times. Innovation and technology, embracing change, encouraging innovation. Here we are right here in Nebraska. We are encouraging innovation and helping our viewers embrace change. Financing, access to capital, lack of funds. We know that's an issue. Community building, infrastructure, amenities. You know, amenities are huge, especially in smaller towns. If you can put together some kind of a water feature or a swimming pool or some kind of a unique thing on Main Street, super important. And then finally, commercial real estate, inflation, and construction costs. Construction costs are shooting way up. What's the wow-oriented solution to that? All right, community opportunities very quickly. Education and childcare, I think we know that. Recreation and parks. The new younger generation is very tuned into nature. They'd like to be in a park-like, work and live in a park-like environment. No doubt about that. Local tax and economic growth, lessening state and local tax burden. I think that's an active agenda right now at the unicameral. Healthcare and family services, very important. Family and social support, Listen to this: infrastructure for refugees and immigrants. Now they're coming in. That they are a very potent force in our state's demographics. We've got to find a solution and try to help them out at a wow. There's got to be a wow answer, a wow solution. And then finally, oh my goodness, finally, this is a Nebraska deal, attracting new residents, welcoming a community atmosphere, a recruitment campaign to attract or retain residents. Let me say that again because that is so important. The very first one is hiring a skilled workforce. The very last one on my list right here, attracting residents with a welcoming community atmosphere. They're missing something here on this list, I must tell you, and that is downtown. They are really overlooking the importance of revitalizing downtown. I know there isn't going to be as much commerce down there, but there should be a lot of people living down there, a lot of pedestrian activity, and of course amenities and action and coffee and music and relationships. A lot of things need to happen in Nebraska's downtown, and certainly new facades, new design, a new sense of what is contemporary, what is hip, as they used to say, what is now, all right? So there we go. Those are a whole list of things that need to be done here in this state. We want to think in big terms now. We want to think about firecrackers, pop, excitement, energy would be the best word to use as we wrap up our show right here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. Thank you so much. Don't forget about vision, fusion, and passion. We started the show. Statistics are very frightening. Do not let the uncertainty hold you back. Go forward. This is how we are helping you. All the answers are here. We'll see you next time on WowBiz Nebraska.